Dead on arrival. There is no more House bill that would ban high-level nuclear waste storage in Texas. Thanks for staying up late with us. I'm Tatum Gwynn. Now, this bill, it was written in hopes of putting a stop to bringing that type of waste to Andrews County. We're working to understand the latest development in the story tonight. Jonathan picks it up from here. Jonathan, what went wrong?
Good evening, Tatum. It's complicated. To put it simply, it all boils down to how the bill was written. Now, I spoke to leaders who do not support the storage of nuclear waste who also oppose this bill. Representative Craddick pulling the plug on the deal late last night. Radioactive waste, it's top of mind as a license to store high levels of it in Andrews County is inching its way towards an approval. Local Representative Landgraf filed a bill in opposition, hoping to block high-level nuclear waste from coming to Texas. Tommy Taylor has been outspoken on the matter for more than a year. He felt the bill couldn't do much.
But it had a ban on high-level waste. We just didn't feel like talking to the experts and attorneys around the country that it was going to be would uphold in a court of law, because the federal government is responsible for high-level waste.
He believes it needed a rewrite.
What we wanted to say in the bill when we were trying to negotiate this was that that language doesn't speak to the state's right. It doesn't reference the Nuclear Waste Policy Act correctly.
Author of the bill, Representative Landgraf, pushing back tonight. In a written statement to News West 9, he says, in part, while this bill was requested and supported by my Andrews constituents, I was proud to also work on agreed-to language with the governor of Texas and a Midland oil and gas company. Language aside, the issue still stands. There is a chance high levels of radioactive waste could be stored in West Texas. Taylor doubling down on his concerns.
If it gets moved out here, even on an interim basis, and an interim basis means 40 years, 80 years, 120 years, 200 years, they all believe that this will become the de facto permanent repository.
Another issue, when looking at similar models to store high-level waste, he says bringing it to a populated community is a big mistake.
We just think that's a bad idea, and had done some research on it. And, you know, in the international community, they have a guidebook for storing spent fuels on an interim basis, and they basically said, don't put it in the middle of an oil field. And when we consulted with those people, they said we were talking about a small oil field, not one of the largest in the world.
Waste control specialists had this to say: our interests and the state's interests are aligned, and we remain committed to working closely with our community, our regulators, and the state of Texas to ensure the facility remains viable, safe, and an asset to the state and the state's economy. Now, according to Craddick's team, Landgraf had informed Craddick that he would no longer be pursuing legislation for this bill under the current session. Reporting live in Midland, Jonathan Polasic, News West 9.